Hello, welcome to my channel. Back to my channel. My name is Tony. I am playing Stardew with my sister, and today we are going to be talking about parenting with anxiety. So, it's going to be an interesting one because we both have anxiety, but different levels, I guess. So, here we go. Okay, hello. Alright.
Hello.
So today Holly and I are talking about parenting with anxiety.
Yep, I have lots of experience in this.
Yep, me too. Holly and I both have anxiety. I think at some point we should do like a video where we each talk about like our anxiety, like how it started, like, you know.
Yeah, the way it
manifests
manifests itself.
Yeah. But right now we're going to just talk about parenting with anxiety, which is a challenge all on its own.
Yes, it is.
So like for me, my panic attacks were not nearly as bad like when I got pregnant and during my pregnancy. And like I kind of got lucky with my pregnancy with Matthew in that I hadn't like ever gone on mommy blogs or anything like that, like no baby center, nothing like that. So I didn't realize all the things that could potentially happen during a pregnancy. Otherwise, I'm not sure if I would have survived my first pregnancy. You know what I mean? Like, obviously I would have survived it, but you know.
But you wouldn't have thought you were going to.
Right. Yeah, like, and then, you know, with the next ones, I was obviously a little more versed, so it wasn't nearly as, like, paranoia-inducing being pregnant. But then with each one of my babies, not a single one of my children ever slept in a crib. Matthew literally slept in my arms until he was old enough to like roll and stuff, and then he would just sleep next to me. Like eventually they would all graduate to toddler beds, but none of my kids slept in cribs. And that was partially because I just watered the cat. I always water the freaking cat. That was partially because like I breastfed, so it's just easier, and partially because they hated cribs and I didn't want to make them cry. But it also really helped with my anxiety when it came to like making sure that they were okay all night.
It's not letting me pet our animals.
It might be because I already pet them.
Oh, maybe.
Weirdly enough, it only lets one of us pet them per day, which I think is kind of strange, but...
It is. Are we gonna like...
Like, do you want me to like talk the full thing about my anxiety and then you can talk the full thing about yours, or do you want to go back and forth?
I was just gonna say though that I was the same way. None of my kids slept in a crib. My youngest, who's 3, still sleeps next to me. Because she, you know, sometimes she still wakes up that night and wants me, and you know, she would be. It's easier for the kids, you know, like they don't wake up as often in the middle of the night wanting me, but if they do, they just walk in here and it's not really a big deal, or my son will just text me.
Yep.
But her, you know, she's still so little. I don't want her to like wake up in the middle of the night scared and crying, you know, like I want her to be close to me, and when she's ready to sleep in her own bed, she can.
Yep.
So, and I was the same way. Like okay, for a while I would like try to have the kids sleep in, it was actually usually a bassinet, and they would sleep, like I'd lay them down to sleep and they'd sleep for maybe a couple of hours while I was still awake, and I would like check on them every once in a while, but I couldn't do it while I was asleep because in my mind, if I went to sleep while they were in their bassinet, they were going to stop breathing. So I would just co-slept. I had them sleep next to me, and I would sleep like, you know, obviously there were no pillows, no blankets, anything like that on us, but I would sleep so that I was like face to face with them, so that I wasn't gonna like roll over on them because, you know, it was my face. And yeah, that's just how I felt more comfortable. I could feel them, I could tell if they were breathing, all that.
Yep, me too. And I know some people are very anti co-sleeping. They think it's, terrible, blah, 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 blah. It worked for me.
Yeah, it was way, in my opinion, it just feels way safer for me.
Yeah.
Especially since I'm not a heavy sleeper anyway, so.
Right. And, like, with me, when my children have never, crap, I forgot it's Saturday. My children have never, had babysitters. I've never in my entire life used a babysitter. The very, very, very rare times that I've needed them to be watched by someone for, maybe a funeral, or like when my mother-in-law died, or when I had to go to meetings about like my house, when I was buying my house, or like various things like that, my mother would watch them. And even that was very, very, very rare.
Yep, and that's another thing that we have in common. My kids have never been left with a babysitter, and like the closest, so the first time I ever left my kids with anybody, it was actually Tony.
Oh yeah.
And it was when my son was like 3.5, and my daughter was 4 months old. And it was actually because I came back to Michigan for my friend's wedding, and I was going to be in the wedding, so I had to go to the rehearsal dinner. And it was supposed to be, we were supposed to be gone for like, I think 3 hours. Like the whole thing altogether was like 3 hours, but I only went to part of it because I didn't want to be gone for more than like an hour. And Tony is one of the only people that I actually truly would trust with my children. Like, if my kids wanted to go stay the night at her house, I'd be totally fine with that. But I still, like when they were that little, I was like, nope, I do not want to leave them for more than an hour. I'm not okay with it.
Yep.
And
to be fair, Callie had never met us before. Granted, she was only 4 months old, but she didn't know us. She was born
and she was
in
still
California.
nursing.
Yep. So, she wasn't, and it's not like she just flew in that day, tossed her baby at me, and left. But, still, Callie wasn't, super familiar with all of us.
Yeah, and Augie was a lot more chill. He was fine. He wanted to play with his cousins.
Oh my gosh, he was so excited to play with his cousins. It was so cute.
that was pretty much. It's weird. I'll get into that after. So like, and I think since then I've never left them with a babysitter. Like, if I leave like by myself for a small amount of time, they're with their dad, and I'm fine with that, obviously, but that's it.
Yeah.
I won't leave them with Jay's mom. I won't leave them with I might leave them with our mom, like, for a small amount of time if I absolutely had to, but I don't have a reason to, so I probably wouldn't.
Exactly. That's my whole thing, is I don't go out, I don't party. If my kids aren't welcome, I don't go.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not even like it does have to do with anxiety, but at the same time, I don't really feel the need to be away from them. Like I even posted something earlier that was so completely accurate. It said, I want a whole vacation from my kids, but I want to bring my kids.
Yeah, I know, and Scott's comment was so wrong.
No, I know. That's because literally every single time he comments on anything, it's just telling me I'm just like mom, or I look just like mom, or it's weird.
And I mean, I can get it when he says you look like mom, but it was not accurate about that being how mom felt.
No, not at all. Yeah. But yeah, go on.
Oh yeah, but so, and then like as I got older, like Matthew really never, like, he didn't really have a lot of friends when he was little. He did not like actually make his first like real friend until he was in probably like 4th grade, and I knew the parents really well, so I was comfortable with him going there. But he also didn't really like to like spend the night there very often, but he did on occasion. Salem, however, decided to want to have his first sleepover the summer after kindergarten at like 5 years old with his friend Cameron, who luckily their family turned out to be very, very sweet people, and that turned out to be somewhere that like he pretty much spent a lot of time. So it wasn't as big of a deal. But like, you have no idea what it took for me to say yes to the sleepover for this child. And that was literally why Salem got a cell phone as young as he did, because there was a time that, because originally when he would stay the night there, he didn't really ever want to come home, but on very rare occasions when he did, the mom would call me without a problem, and either she'd drop him off or I'd pick him up. But there was one time where the mom was like, no, you'll be all right, leave your mom alone. And she meant well, like she wasn't like trying to be mean. She just was like, I know you're going to be fine by morning, it's not a big deal. Her kid, this was her youngest child versus my, middle child. And so, she was used to sleep, stuff like that. But I did not like that idea, because my thing has always been, if you want to go home for any reason, no matter what, I'm picking you up. I don't care.
Yeah.
So that was why Salem got a cell phone, so that way if that ever happened again, I could just get a text or a phone call.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Hold on 1 second, Holly. I'm gonna help with something real quick. Okay, this stupid.
Do we still need a sunfish for the thing, or have you gotten that before?
I think so. Hold on. I had to pause for a second so I could help Salem. But anyway, and then Lucas. Oh shit! I forgot I unplugged my thing because I got pissed. Lucas. Still Lucas didn't have sleepovers until he was a little bit older too. But like the biggest problem with like both Salem and Lucas is wanting to have sleepovers with cousins.
Yeah.
And even though it's my sister's houses, it doesn't change the fact that I'm still like, oh my god, no, I don't want my kids, I don't want my kids away from me.
Yeah.
But my whole thing has always been, I've always told my kids, I'm not going to let my anxiety ruin your life. You know what I mean?
Hold back your childhood.
Hold back your life. So even when I didn't want to let my kids go to sleepovers, whether it was at our sisters' houses or wherever, I still let them go. Like, I even let Salem go to Ohio for, how long were you gone for? 5 days with one of his friends.
Isn't that when he got hit by a car?
Yes, where he got hit by a freaking truck. He was okay, just so we're clear. But, and still after that, I still have let him go places. Yeah. And, I've let Lucas go to Kalahari for the weekend with Nick and Tyler, with my nephew and his dad. Matthew takes off to Chicago for the weekend with his friends, which granted he's 19, but so there's all these things that I say yes to, even though it's very hard, but at the same time I have to be able to not only trust my kids, but I also have to let them do, I still say no to some things. Like Salem had a friend that came into town here recently from what is that state? Washington State. And we went and met the friend and their mom for dinner. And they were very, they're very nice people. The child's nice, the mother's very nice. And they were going to go stay up by Frankenmuth. And they had offered to let Salem go with them and go to this fair carnival thing that was up there. And Salem was very unhappy and angry that I said absolutely no to that. If I would have been able to go up there as well and just let him, but I told him, regardless of whether or not I trust these people, if you are that far away, it's an hour-and-a-half drive. If you are that far away, what if something happens? What if you just want to come home? What if, it turns out that you actually really hate this child and, they were only nice to you at dinner? You know what I mean? What if, literally anything could happen. What if, the kid and their mom get into some huge screaming match and it's awkward? Not that I'm saying that that's going to happen, because the mother seemed very nice and, I didn't anticipate anything, but you never know.
Yeah.
And on top of that, yes, we had one lovely dinner with these people and they were very nice. That doesn't mean that I know them.
Yep.
And I am not that mom who just sends my kid off with their friends without knowing a single thing about them. I know some parents do that. They don't care. The kids come home. Yeah, kids. Lucas, come on, dude. Kids come home and say, "Oh, can I go to so and so's house?" And mom's like, "Sure, absolutely, go there." Like we even have sisters who are like, "Yeah, sure, you can go hang out with so and so friend whose parents I've never met and probably never will meet."
Yeah.
Fine. If that's how you want to do it, that is perfectly fine. Clearly, your anxiety is not at the level of mine.
Yeah. When I was in middle school, I went to Cedar Point, all the way down in Ohio, with Megan and her aunt, and I don't think mom ever met her aunt.
Right, exactly.
And then I would go stay at her other aunt's house down in Allen Park, which is like an hour away, and that was
all the time
never met
you would
her.
go there.
Yeah, she never met her.
Yeah, and like I remember going to stay.
I also wouldn't speak to her. I wouldn't call her all weekend. I was just gone all weekend.
I remember going to go stay with Jennifer and her mom for the weekend. And I was just allowed to go do that, and that was, a little ways away. And I'm not doing that because I'm just nope.
Same.
Some of that might be anxiety, some of that might just be overly cautiousness. I genuinely don't know or care, but luckily my children are not like angry about it.
Yeah. Well, and
okay. Well, Salem was pretty pissed about the not letting him go with
teenagers
and their mom. But that only lasted like 5 minutes, and then basically he got over it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, he's also relatively logical for a teenager.
Exactly. And, and I think that he knows himself well enough to know that by like day 2 at the earliest, he would have wanted to come home anyway.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, for me, my kids, I will say, part of why I homeschool is like convenience, because we move so often. We haven't found like a home that we've settled down in. Can you imagine if my kids have been trying to go to regular school for these couple of years, where we moved like 6 times?
It would have been such a nightmare.
Yeah, it just seems like silly to put them in school when we're not like, we don't have roots, we're not settled in a place, we don't even want to be here,
Right.
So, right now, like that, but then also I worry so much about like school shootings and stuff that like I'm not upset that they're not going to regular school, and Augie did for for first grade. He did go once or twice a week to a regular school for 8 hours a day and have class, and like it, like he went to a regular school. He has had that experience, and eventually Callie will get that experience as well, because she really, really wants to. She's the most social creature in the world. Even if it is just like a charter school where she goes like, a couple times, once or twice a week, like, because that just feels, it feels smaller and safer to me, like it's, and once they get a little older, I will have them just go to a regular school.
And once you're fully settled in somewhere.
Exactly, once we're like settled somewhere and we know that we like have a home, and even if we're renting, but we know that that's like the place we want to be,
Yeah.
But part of why I homeschool is the anxiety of like, so, like especially with school shootings and everything. And I've never, like, my kids have never had a sleepover before. Well, they had a friend sleep over, but that was my best friend's daughter, who is my daughter's best friend, and my son also loves her. And I would, if we lived near them, I would let them stay the night with them, because Sam is my best friend. I know her, I trust her, like, I know when I trust her husband, even if he isn't my favorite. So I would let them stay the night there, but when it comes to like people I don't know, I would not. I don't know the dynamic of the parents, like I don't know. I feel like as teenagers it might be a little different, you know what I mean, when they're a little bit more able to, stand up for themselves or just do whatever, but as of right now, they're just little. Although if we lived near you guys, I would let them like if we live near we live near my friends, like if we live near Autumn, my kids could absolutely have a sleep, like, like Callie could have a sleepover with Sadie, and I'd have absolutely no problem with it. If we live near Leanne, Augie could have a sleepover with Bronson, and I would be totally cool with it. Like,
Right.
there are people that I would be fine with, but it's because I know and have known for a long time and very much trust their parents.
Right.
But I would still have them, like, take a cell phone. Augie would take his phone in case he needed me, because, I trust their parents to tell me if they need something, but what if they don't feel comfortable telling their parents? You know what I mean? Like,
right. Well, and here's my thing. I actually have struggled with even letting my kids stay with, like, my friends. Like, I actually have a harder time, like, if I know somebody well, because, like, let's say, for instance, like, I'll use Heather for an example. Or like Nick with Tyler, like when Tyler is at his dad's, when it's Nick's week.
Yeah.
I would always struggle with letting the kids stay there because I knew that Liliana was allowed to walk around town younger than my kids were.
Oh, yeah.
And there had been several times where, even though it was against my rules, Heather let her do it and said, "Oh, we just won't tell your mom." Well, hello, my kid is a tattletale and would tell me every single time.
Right.
And, like, same thing with Tyler is, Lucas is probably not going to tell Nick that he's not allowed to wander around, or, they're just going to let him do it because Tyler can do it, and I'm not comfortable with that. I don't let my kids walk around. I don't care if it's a small town. I don't care if it's a safe town. Small, safe towns do not stop people from running children over if they're stupid and cross the road. Small, safe towns do not stop children from drowning if they're dumb and jump in that river.
Yep.
Small, safe towns did not stop my nephew from breaking his arm at the park by himself and then having to walk home with a broken arm because no one was there to help him.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And, I mean, just... I don't...
Also, small towns do have creeps.
Yes. Literally, okay.
In fact, small towns arguably might have...
one street away from me. One street away. And I mean literally like 6 houses. Because these are small little side streets. There was a child found in a home where she had been kidnapped and held against her will by this man. For months. Do you know how many times
she wasn't even
walked...
from the same state, was she?
No. Do you know how many times I walked by that house and I didn't know that there was a child being held captive in there?
Yeah.
That was blocks away from me.
Yep.
Literally, my child, at that point, I had been willing to let Salem walk down to the little party store at the end of the road, passing this house.
Yeah.
And this man, and I didn't think anything of it. Thankfully, Salem only did that with a friend and a cell phone. But had I, now, even though Lucas is almost the same age that Salem was when Salem was allowed to with friends, I won't let Lucas and his friends do it because,
because that was a reality slap.
Yeah, that was, I'm not joking you, like 6 houses away from me.
Yeah.
And that's horrifying for that child, and that's horrifying for the whole entire neighborhood. And it was glossed over. Like, if I didn't live right here, no one would have known that this happened. It was not in the news. It was so ridiculously glossed over that I can't even...
Yeah, it's weird, right? Like, why was it not even made into a thing?
Yeah, and it's a true story. It is not like some rumor. I saw the police cars. Like, this is a true thing that happened. Like, there was a newspaper article about it, but, like, it wasn't as widespread as I would have thought, considering the subject matter. Like, oh, so messed up. And, like, obviously there was Facebook posts about it, and, it was talked about a little bit in this town, but, like, not like what you would expect. And stuff like that is why I'm not just going to let my kids wander around town.
Yeah, exactly. And like, my son, who is 10, and this is me. This is extreme because this is my anxiety right here. we have a vending machine because we live like near the little like community like house and like the pool and everything in our and where we live. And my 10-year-old likes to walk to the vending machine occasionally to get a drink. And I will seriously make him, it's okay. I can look out of my bedroom window and see like the place where it is. Like there's like a hedge that kind of covers like where he has to turn and actually go to the vending machine, but it's just like right there. Um and I still make him take his cell phone and talk to me on the phone the entire way there.
Oh, I'm not kidding. When you first showed us the picture, my immediate thought was, hell no, I would not send Lucas there.
Mhm.
Like,
Exactly.
and you can see it.
It's right by but it's right by a parking lot. And
Exactly. Like it's just
anybody
it's
could pull up, grab him and run.
Yeah. And it just, I don't know, it's I would rather be safe than sorry. And like I've told my children, I'm not going to hold you back. I will let you hang out with your friends. I will let you go to sleepovers. I will let you, go to, I even let Lucas go to the movies with his friends. Much younger than I did Salem.
Right.
But I'm not going to just let my kids wander around alone. I'm not just going to send my kids off somewhere that, like, I don't know.
It doesn't seem worth it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
And like,
I'm not that lazy that I can't just take my kid to the park if my kid has to go to the park.
summer.
Oh, nice. Except our coffee bean's going to be gone now because that'll bum me out.
I don't think so.
Oh, no.
I think
good.
those grow in the
Good.
summer too.
Good.
But yeah, oh, the chicken just went back inside. Yeah, exactly. Well, and the funny thing too is like, people will say all the time, like, if you do that, then, like, because I've posted before about how, like, because, like, moms groups will have, like, discussions about what you allow your kids to do and whatever. And there have been times when I've mentioned online that, like, I don't, all the stuff that I just don't let my kids do, basically. And that, like, I never send them to babysitters and whatever. And so many people are like, well, then when you're not around, or like your kid's going to be dependent on you, they're not going to be able to like go anywhere by themselves. They're going to freak out anytime you're not around and like all this stuff. Okay, I worried about that when Augie went to his like school for first grade. He could not have given a single fuck less that I wasn't there.
Yeah, I can confirm that children don't do that.
It's not the way it is. Like, and like there have been times, like there was a time when I like hold on. Like, okay, I said I've never left them with a babysitter, which is true. It's not a babysitter, but there have been times when I've like I ran to the store and Callie was left with Sam. Like we ran over to the store and Callie was left with Sam. And she did not care. She was not concerned. Like they really don't care. Like they're fine when or like Callie, like Augie, we would leave and take like a hike, or like there was like a hiking trail near Augie's acting class, so we would just leave him there and go, and he did not care. Like,
right. Well,
they really.
My
it's not.
kids would get upset if I left them at home. Like if I went to go do something with my friends and like left them home with their father, they would act like I was abandoning them for life.
Well, yeah, because they want to go with you.
Yeah, but they didn't care. Like they were perfectly content to go to friends' houses and things like that. They just didn't want to. They didn't want me to go do anything fun without them. But they could go do fun stuff without me.
Exactly. They, that's how it is with mine too. Like, they don't need me to be with them every moment of every day, as long as they're, enjoying what they're doing. They're not. It's not true that if you are, set all these rules for your kids, that they're gonna become stunted. And
I remember Gil telling me that strict parents make sneaky kids. I wonder his thought process on that nowadays.
Right.
I
wonder if the reason why Gil... No, never mind.
Yeah, Yeah, maybe we should talk about that subject off camera.
Yeah.
But like I just like my children are very like Lucas sometimes gets a little bit more like, what the heck, why can't I do blah 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 blah, but that's more of a case of, oh, how come my siblings get to do this and I don't? And it's like, bro, because they're so much older than you.
Yeah, man, like, I deal with that with Callie all the freaking time. Get over it.
But I don't get like and like one thing, it's actually funny because my ex-husband actually was much more strict on like certain things than me, and I just ended up like, why does I hear like flies buzzing?
I don't know, I don't hear it. I have all the sound effects down on the game though.
So weird. But my ex-husband had some family trauma in which his younger brother was hit by a car and killed when him and his younger brother were on bikes together, and he was 12 and his younger brother was 8. So he's always had a rule that he doesn't want the kids walking around without us until they're at least past the age of 12. And even though we're divorced, I still stick with that rule. And I told Lucas, that is a very important rule to your dad. He has trauma from it. I'm not going to disobey that rule regardless of whether we're married or not. Like, yeah, that's a very important rule for your dad, and he has his reasons why. And I, of all people, am not going to dismiss someone else's anxiety.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Especially when it's not like, if he was like, oh, the kids are never allowed to walk down the street by themselves ever, okay, we might need to talk to a therapist. But like, yeah, you have a certain age that it stops triggering you so much. Yeah. I'm not going to be an asshole about it.
Exactly.
But it's, yeah. I will say it is difficult to parent with anxiety because sometimes I feel bad if I don't, like, for instance, I don't like to drive into the city, like into Detroit. Going on the expressway, like, I'm totally fine taking the expressway, but once I get into the city, it stresses me out to the point that my ex-husband would always drive anytime we had to go into Detroit for anything. So now, like, if the kids want to go to the zoo, I have yet to take them since my divorce, partly because it was winter, but also because the thought of driving into Detroit stresses me out.
Yep.
Or like there, various other places. Like Salem really wants to drive next time we go to Florida because Salem is obsessed with going on long drives. That would be great and all, but I genuinely do not think that I can drive through Detroit, Atlanta, and possibly even Orlando.
Man, when you come to California,
I will not be driving anywhere.
Oh, you're going to take like Ubers and stuff?
Well, I'm not going to go anywhere. Like, we're going to stay, everywhere that we're going is going to be like walkable.
Oh, is it? Because there's no beach near.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about the beach.
Oh, okay.
Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love to go to the beach, but I'm not renting a car or anything, so.
Oh, okay.
Unless it's close enough for us to Uber there, I'm not even gonna bother. But, and I mean, it's not that I'm like against driving in all traffic. Like, I will go somewhere and I will drive in the traffic.
Yeah.
And like, it's just specifically Detroit. Like it's like the 696. That is what stresses me out. 94 is fine. 696, I genuinely cannot handle it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just like driving down there with like people who, drive like they're from Detroit or what it is, but it stresses me out to the point that I can't even stand the thought of doing it.
Yeah.
And I've got to get over it eventually because I can't just spend the rest of my life never going into the city ever because I'm sure I'm going to have to at some point for something. you know.
Yeah.
But, or even just to go to the airport, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But, so I don't know. It's.
See, is it okay if I take some copper and upgrade my axe?
Yeah, go ahead. Wait,
Okay.
you don't have a copper axe yet?
I don't think so.
Oh, damn. Okay. Yeah, I need to upgrade mine to steel.
Gold?
Do we have any?
Steel? I don't know if we have any steel.
Alright, I'll have to check and see.
But yeah, I'll take it a step farther, and I don't drive.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I don't drive at all because well, okay, so it started out with I actually took driver's ed. I did a good job. I liked driving. I had no problem with it. But then once I passed driver's ed, mom suddenly wouldn't let me get my license because I didn't have good grades. Oh, the blacksmith is closed.
Oh yeah, it's 6 o'clock. I didn't even think of that.
I didn't even realize it was already that late. So since she wouldn't let me get my license, I didn't. And then later in life, Jay had a license, and I just kind of, everywhere I went was basically with him. Plus, I knew I couldn't afford a car yet, so I was just kind of like, whatever, I don't need to get a license yet. And then once we moved to California, I got a job. I got a car that Jay ended up driving, mostly because I couldn't get my license because I didn't like the way that people drive here. I don't know, it just, there weren't any back roads to practice on, and it's just that's when I started to get anxious about it. And then I tried to get a license in Ohio, but I didn't have a proof of residency because I didn't officially live with Heidi, and I didn't have I couldn't get a license because I didn't have my social security card at that point. I don't know. It was a lot, so I never ended up getting it in Ohio. And then after that, I had Augie.
Yep.
And I was terrified to be a new driver with my brand new tiny baby. And then after that, I'm just too scared to drive with my kids because I'm not experienced enough, and I don't want to put their lives in an inexperienced hands. You know what I mean?
Yep. That's why I'm glad that I decided to get my license before I ever got pregnant, because I didn't get my license at 16. I got mine a little bit older, but I remember thinking, because my best friend had a baby, actually both of my best friends had babies, and I remember thinking, shit, I need to get a driver's license because eventually I'm going to have children and I need to be able to drive them places.
Yeah.
So I worked 3 jobs, saved up, got a car, went and did the written test, did my road test, got a license, and luckily living in this small town, I got most of my experience driving to my best friend's house because she lived 3 towns away, but it was a super simple, straightforward way to get to her house. And so I would drive to her house every single weekend, and that gave me so much driving practice, and it just made it...
Yeah, it made it not a big deal.
Yep.
Well, that's exactly the thing. That is exactly the thing, is right now, if we lived there, I would happily go get my license, because I know those roads.
You know these roads.
It's not you don't have to go on the highway to get everywhere. There's not a whole bunch of a crazy amount of traffic. It's easy to navigate.
Right.
It's.
And it even it took me a little while to get comfortable driving the other direction.
Yeah.
And I still, I don't go super, I can go to Hull Road if I have to.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily love going to Hull Road, but I
Even
will.
Mom hates Hull Road.
Yeah, everybody hates Hull Road. But I don't feel the same way about Hull Road as I do about, going into Detroit.
696?
Yeah, 696, yeah. And I mean, eventually I will get used to it, and I will do it. But I probably will try to do it super late at night and get myself used to it.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things where maybe when we move and if we live in a small, you know what I mean, a small nice little town, then I would probably have no problem getting my license, but it's just something about the roads here and the traffic and the layout of it all. And especially when we lived in the mountains, like there's no fucking way I'm driving on a mountain road.
Oh my
No,
god,
no,
I would
no.
cry. I
Like
would
me near a
cry.
cliff.
Like,
Oh my
I
god.
would love to see the mountains, but I don't want to drive up to the mountains.
No, like when we went to, there's a spot where you're driving up to Tahoe from like one side, because there's like two highways that lead up to Tahoe from like our area ish.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them, or one of them is not like a big deal. One of them's like a really, really nice, pretty chill drive. But one of them, you literally, like, there is a insane, horrifying, like, you are, I don't even know how high up. You're all the way up to like the top of the mountain where Tahoe is. And you're going around a corner with a cliff wall on one side and a literal just straight drop off cliff with no barriers or anything on the other side.
Yeah,
And it is the
that
most
does not
horrifying
sound
thing.
like fun time.
Like I cried. Like it was, I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do eventually plan to get my license. I really, really, really do. But it's just not the time. Like I'm not ready for that yet because
Right.
of I just needs to be somewhere that I'm more comfortable.
Yeah.
Well, and we've never lived anywhere long enough for me to get friggin' used to the roads, like to get like to know any. I just
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah. It
that's
just
that's where I am with that.
yeah. Which I mean, I am incredibly thankful that I didn't, because if I would have waited, I might not have been comfortable getting my license either. I probably would have, just because, like you said, smaller, safer roads, all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm glad that I did get it. Like before I had a kid and had to worry about do I want to drive
driving
with him
your-
in the car, whatever, because I've always been the one who takes my children everywhere. My children are a lot more comfortable with me driving than they even were like with their father
Yeah.
when we were
Yeah.
still married.
Well, and it helps. It helps for me too that like Jay is a great driver. He enjoys driving. Like he's always,
Right.
I mean, he's not always around because he. That's one thing is like we can't go to like any of like the little moms group meetups or any of the things that are like set for homeschool because they're all during the week. Like
Yep.
so, sorry, we can't go.
Yeah.
Like even if we had two cars.
Right. Yeah, that part
but yeah.
definitely sucks. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
I mean,
not-
as my kids get older, like obviously, yes, I still have anxiety, but like, I can, like, or earlier today, me and Salem were going to go get dinner for the kids, well, for all of them, for everyone, and
Yeah.
Lucas asked if he could stay home with Matthew. I told him yes, that was fine, no big deal. But then, as we were driving, I realized that there was a major storm coming.
Yeah.
And so I called him and I was like, hey, listen, I need, because originally Lucas was just going to stay up in his room and like play his Xbox or whatever. I called him and I was like, listen, stay on the phone with me. Carefully and slowly walk down the staircase because I am so triggered by staircases. Thanks, my sweet Audrina. And hang out with Matthew in his room or hang out in the living room. And Lucas was like, okay, why? And I said, because there's a very bad storm coming. And if the power goes out, I don't want you to frantically run down the stairs. Or if the wind gets really bad and it knocks over a tree in our backyard, I would prefer for it to not go through the roof while you're sitting there and I'm not home.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, that's logical. And he went downstairs and he hung out in the living room until I got back with dinner.
Yeah.
And, the storm wasn't as bad as they were calling for it, thankfully. It was just mostly a lot of rain and some wind. But, that was 100% anxiety. That wasn't, I mean, it wasn't illogical. I wasn't like, oh my God, you can never leave the house again. Like, or I'm never leaving the house without you. I'm coming home right now. I'm not, you have to come with me. It was just, hey, which, I mean, I don't know. Like, my normal meter is kind of off, so I don't know if that would be considered just normal, logical, like parenting, or if that would be considered kind of anxiety. You know,
Yeah, and
like,
I would tell you, but I don't have a good gauge for that.
right, exactly. Like, that's the problem, is like, I don't know. Like, I feel like it makes sense to, you know, tell your child, hey, you know, why don't you be careful because blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But okay, so we need to get some melons and some blueberries for the summer.
I
crops.
planted some.
Oh, okay, you did plant some. Okay, good, because we need them for the summer crops bundle. But yeah, I don't know.
I'm looking at the same thing right now.
I feel like like you said, my normal meter is kind of off, so I don't fully know what, you know, if I'm being crazy sometimes or if I'm being logical. But at the same time, like, I feel like it makes perfect sense, you know, same way, you know, even our mother, who was probably the least paranoid person ever, would still say to us, you know, hey, when there's a storm, stay away from the windows.
Yes.
Like, don't shower in a thunderstorm.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff.
Just basic safety tips.
Yeah. Which I don't even necessarily know if not showering in a thunderstorm is a real thing.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe, I feel like maybe more if you have like a well.
Oh yeah, I guess that would make sense. But we never did, ever.
No. Our water didn't come from the ground, so. Well, I mean, I guess.
Well,
no.
Technically, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But yeah, so I don't know. Like, I don't really know what else I can say about parenting with anxiety, except that if you think that parenting is hard, just normal parenting when you have anxiety is 1,000 times harder.
Oh, I didn't even talk about my swimming. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Hold on 1 second. What's
Okay.
up, baby?
Why aren't you here? It's so funny without the music because the footsteps are just so loud. I wish there was a way to find a happy medium with the music.
Okay. Yes, baby. Okay. Augie was asking me if I would mark, or if I would, find a way to mark when the sex scenes in Fear Street 2 were, so that he could watch it and just skip them.
Oh, that is so funny.
He really wants to watch them.
Or will you look up a Dorado and tell me,
What is a Dorado?
I don't know, it's a fish. Tell me if I fish it from lake, river, or ocean.
How do you spell it?
It's like Dora Dio.
Dora Dio. Okay. Stardew Valley. Oh, hold on. Okay. Forest River from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Yeah, Forest River. Okay. So I forgot a huge chunk of my anxiety.
Yes.
Has to do with swimming. Because as Tony has told on this channel before, I drowned when I was a toddler.
Yep, 18
like,
months old.
Straight up died.
Yep.
And I don't remember it, of course. I was, a year and a half old. I was very little. But I must have some residual subconscious, fear. Because my children in water is just the most terrifying thing for me. And, also, it doesn't help that I fucking read about dry drowning, which I know is extremely rare and, nearly impossible, and does not just happen from, swallowing a little bit of water, and I'm so aware of that. But still...
But anxiety is not a rational thing.
No, definitely not. So, I gotta sell a couple things. So I haven't not let my children see. It's a problem because for a long time I did let it hold back my kids, like playing in the water and like having fun and learning, and I do regret it now because my son had this habit of he didn't like when water would touch his face. So anytime water would splash in his face, he'd be like he'd like kind of gasp, and so he would inhale water. And I was like, you need to stop it. So, like, I eventually just stopped bringing him in the water because it would give me such extreme anxiety every time. And I'd have anxiety for 2 days because I'd be watching him, making sure he was breathing okay. And, like, ugh. And so, it's just now this summer that finally I've like put them into some floaties and let them just like play, and when they swallow water I don't make a big deal of it. I'm just like, okay, you're good, keep going, because they need to learn, and I'm so aware that they need to learn, and if I keep like pushing all of my like oh my god, like on them, then they're never going to learn, and that's even more unsafe.
Right,
like
exactly.
so I'm just like, okay, like it's fine. I know swallowing water's normal. Just don't open your mouth in the water. Breathe out, like, I taught them to like blow bubbles when their face touches the water. I taught them how to hold their breath. Occasionally they still swallow some water, but it's not that big of a deal. I now let my 6-year-old, with her, life jacket on, jump into the water, and she loves it, and she's very, very confident in the water, and my son's become a lot more confident in the water, and my 3-year-old uses like one of those things that like you sit in and float,
Yeah.
But eventually we'll move her into a life jacket, and
Yeah.
I won't stress, and we're getting there. We actually took my middle child's life jacket off the other day to try to let her like actually swim, and she just instantly sank. And
It's funny is I didn't let Lucas out of a life jacket till he was like 9.
Maybe
even 10. He might have even been 10.
Yeah, I tried to let Callie, because she's like, I have the motion down. Like, she was all confident. She's like, I know how to move my arms and legs the right way. Like, we were like, okay, we can give it a try. And I like kind of lightly let go of her, and she just went right under, and I picked her back up, and then I was freaked out, but I didn't say anything. I was just like, you okay?
Well, like,
you're fine.
It's funny because there'll be certain
and
things.
She actually held her breath. I was just gonna say she actually held her breath too. She didn't like inhale any water. She didn't even swallow any water.
Good.
Yeah, she did a really, really good job with it, which gave me a lot of like, like I was very proud. And yeah, I was like, okay, phew, like if she goes under, she doesn't know how to hold her breath, it's okay.
Right.
But
well, and like I don't know about you, but like with my kids, if something makes them anxious, I am so much better at like calming them down, and like because Lucas gets a little bit nervous with storms and like the thought of tornadoes. That was me when I was a kid as well. Even though there's really not been tornadoes around here, that was still me.
Yeah, me too.
But I'll sit him down and explain to him, that's rare, and just it's so much easier for me to like help soothe my kids' anxiety.
Yeah, because you know what they need to hear, and you know what's actually helpful.
Yes, because I know that anxiety is not rational.
Yep.
And another thing that I do is I don't know how what's the word, open you are with your kids about anxiety, like your anxiety, but like my kids are well aware of the fact that I have anxiety. I've promised them numerous times that I will do my best not to let it hold them back, but there are times where like they'll say, okay, well, why do I need to do blah blah blah, and I'll say, because I have anxiety and it's not rational, but just humor me, even if it just something like call me when you get to this place, even though I know you're fine.
Yep,
that's me. And
that's me, like when I'm trying to explain to Augie about why he has to call me walking the machine.
Yep, exactly. And my kids are luckily, like, Salem will literally say to me, okay, Mom, or Lucas, okay, I know you have anxiety, so this, and this is what's happening. And you know what I mean? Like, they're very good about, like, letting me know things. Like, I know you have anxiety, so I'm going to make sure that I do this, even if I don't ask them to.
Yeah.
And
well, because they have an understanding of why you are the way you are.
exactly, because I'm open with them and I tell them, anxiety is not rational. And, but I also tell them, hey, if my anxiety is like being out of control, and it's like, let me know. Because sometimes Salem will be like, okay, well, are you saying no to this because anxiety, or are you saying no to this for a real reason? And I'll be like, it's, obviously everything I do is partially anxiety, but this has a legitimate,
Yeah, this is like legitimately an issue because.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I feel like I have to be very open with them about the fact that I have anxiety, because not only because it's very, very hereditary, but also because, they need to understand that not everything that I do is going to be fully rational when it comes to certain things, and that, let me know if it's, especially now that they're getting older, like with Matthew. I can easily let him go to Chicago with his friends.
Yeah.
But I also would like to know what hotel they're staying at and which train. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you want to know the details so that you know how to contact him in any situation at all.
And I tell him, do this, and this, and if you're ever uncomfortable, blah, blah, like, and he's, good about that kind of thing. Or like, although it's been, I think, a little bit easier with Matthew specifically, because he has been going, like, to his uncle's, oh shit, I didn't need that, his uncle's, like, for weekends, or like even weeks at a time, like a week at a time, not multiple weeks, since he was fairly young, because I'm not going to tell him that he can't go see his uncle. Like, this is on his dad's side of the family. I'm not going to tell him that he can't see his uncle just because, I don't necessarily want my child away from me for 5 days. That's... So, with him it's been a little bit easier, but it's also easy for me, like, it's easier for me to leave Matthew with Matt's family, even Matt's parents, who I know for a fact don't like me. It's still easier for me to leave Matthew with Matt's family than it ever was for me to leave the other two kids with Bob.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
I think that's partially because, like, if Matthew had came to me and said, oh, so-and-so's mean to me, my kids would cry and tell me that Dad was mean to them.
Yeah.
Because he never really had the patience. So that could be a big part of it. But it's also anxiety. It just, again.
And it helps when, part of it is, like, it helps when you know that the person who is with your child loves them as much, like, at least almost as much as you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, like, that's why I wouldn't have a problem with my kids being at your house, or my kids being with, like, other people who are close to me, because I know that they care as much about my kids as, their family,
Yeah, exactly.
normal people, so.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, but I'm, like, I'm very open with the kids about, like, my anxiety, and, like, I'm really open with them about all, like, mental health issues.
Yes.
Like, when I tell them, because sometimes when they're, like, arguing a lot, or they're, like, screaming at each other, or they just get, like, really intense, I get, like, overstimulated, because I have, like, it's like a trauma response from, I don't want to say this, and, like, I'm not like, but when you used to have, like, your panic attacks and you would yell a lot, and it, like, kind of scared me.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a response from, like, that, where, like, if somebody's yelling a lot, or, like, there's, like, just a lot of, like, I get, like, really easily overstimulated and overwhelmed when there's, like, a lot of yelling and stuff happening.
I didn't even know that I yelled when I had panic attacks. I don't remember that.
Yeah, you threw a laundry basket at me and screamed at me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even know that happened.
Yeah, I know, and I was aware that you didn't know. So that's the thing, is, like, it didn't, like, upset me exactly, because I knew that it was your panic attack, not you, you know? But still, like, I was little, so it affected my brain in some ways. So, like, now I get, and it's that, and it's, like, when Mike would scream at Tracy.
Yeah.
Just, like, a lot of bad memories from, like, people yelling and stuff from when I was younger. And that's another thing, is like, it wasn't so much that it was upsetting to me, like when you were yelling. It was more like I knew you were really upset, so that upset me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like now it's just like bad memories connected to like a lot of like chaos and yelling and people screaming at each other. So when my kids are like screaming at each other, even though I'm aware they're siblings, I'm aware they're just children and it's not like that big of a deal, I get really like overwhelmed and overstimulated by it. So sometimes it'll trigger like me like yelling at them, or like me like just getting like really, really upset by it. But I've explained to them before, like, you know, I mean, I'm not like screaming at them like a maniac in like an abusive way or anything, but I'm just like, knock it off, you know, like I get like really mad about it.
Yeah.
But I've told them before, like, listen, it's not, you know, you guys aren't being horrible, you guys aren't being bad, you're just children, you're just siblings, you're just arguing with each other, that's fine and that's normal. But I don't handle it well because it reminds me of, you know, bad things from my past. So when you guys do that, you need to let me just walk away for a minute so that I can like calm myself down a little, like, you know, don't, you know, like just give me a minute, because I don't handle screaming and yelling well. And I don't, it's just like, you know, like I'm like very, like I explained to them, like, this isn't about you, this is about something for me, this is about something from my past.
Yeah.
So when I get really like overwhelmed and overstimulated and I need to walk away, that's why. I'm not like shunning you, I'm taking a moment to like collect myself so that I can handle this in the way that I should as a mother, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Taking an adult time out.
Yeah, exactly. I need an adult timeout so that I don't yell at you, but instead can just speak to you and handle it maturely.
Yep.
But, you know, so I explain those things to them. That way I'm not walking away from them and feeling like I'm ignoring their, you know, make them feel like I'm ignoring their issues.
Right.
But also I'm not screaming at them. They know that I will handle it. I will help them. Just give me a freaking second.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's helped them too, actually, though, because then they take a moment to like calm themselves down too, and then we can all talk, you know?
Right.
But I think that's another like anxiety thing, is how overstimulated I get, and how I've had to teach myself to like take deep breaths and remove myself from the situation mentally and then come back.
Right.
Because that's also what I have to do with my anxiety. I have to remove myself from my anxiety, you know, talk myself through it in my head, and then reapproach the situation. Hey, we should one day do a talk about how we manage our anxiety.
I could definitely talk about how I used to manage my anxiety. I feel like now I don't really manage it.
You don't manage it?
I mean, not really. I sleep on the couch because I can't even sleep in my own bed.
Oh, well, yeah, fair.
So, you know.
Well, then how you deal with it?
Yeah, I guess. Because, like, the way that I used to manage it doesn't work anymore for some reason.
Ugh, because it's new. It's new traumas.
Yeah, I guess that's probably why. Come on, you stupid fish. Alright, well, we're probably going to wrap up the parenting with anxiety and move on to the next video. I just have to catch this fish first.
Yeah.
So I think we've pretty much, there we go. I think we've pretty much said everything that we can say about that, you know?
Yeah, pretty much.
Unless you have any final thoughts on...
Nope.
Okay, well, in that case, of course I should catch another fish. Then I will swap it. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second, mute in Discord for a second, end the video, and then I'll come back and we can start the next one. Okay, thank you everybody for watching. This was our video on parenting with anxiety. You can definitely let me know what you think. If you have anxiety, if you're a parent, not a parent, whatever. Let me know what you think, and questions, comments, concerns, whatever. And see you in the next one. Bye.